The perfect pizza at home is not impossible, and same goes for my Detroit pizza. It's really amazing and simple to do at home. And today I'm gonna take you through baking. Stick around, I got a lot of information to share with you. If you've been following along, I gave you a dough recipe. If you haven't seen it, I'm gonna put a link over here. You can go and click that and get the dough recipe. When we left off of making the dough, I put it in a container like this. This is 24 hours later, and the dough is now ready to be used. So let's put this on the side and let's talk about what we're actually gonna be baking these in. I talked about these pans. These are from a company called Lloyd Pans, right? And in Detroit, there's two sizes of pan that's traditional. This is the 8x10 and this is the 10x14. Depending on how big of a pizza you want, these are generally the two sizes that if you were to go to Detroit that you would find in every restaurant. Now, 8x10s are cool because you can cut this down the middle, and you've got four beautiful corner pieces. And to me, I always get 3 or 4 of these things so that I can share with my family, my friends, but everybody loves a corner piece. On the 10x14, larger format, maybe you make one pizza, you're gonna feed your family, get a nice salad, and you made a quick Friday night dinner, right? The cool thing about this size is that there's a lot of different things that you can do with this pan. It doesn't have to be only for making Detroit pizza. I've done beautiful Sicilians in this pan, I've made focaccias in this pan, so buy a pan that you can do a few things with. If you don't think you're gonna make a lot of this size 8x10, go ahead and invest the money in 10x14s. I'm gonna give you guys a link so that you can buy them directly from the link below. Go into the description, you'll see all those in there, as well as ingredients and a lot of other great stuff. Now, if you're gonna get pans like these, they also give these lids. You can also get a lid. The lids are nice because once the dough is in here, you put a lid on it, you can put the next pan on there with its own lid, you can stack these up. They don't take up a lot of room, and you've essentially just made its own proofing container. So it's a really easy way to be able to just say, hey, let me pop the lid, see how the dough is looking underneath. Hey, it looks ready to go, and I'm ready to go to the next step. So make sure if you're buying pans, you're also getting lids. Now that we've got that out of the way, I'm gonna show you how I put my dough into a pan. Lloyd will always tell you that you don't even need oil in the bottom of these pans. I'm the one that's going to tell you I like to use oil in these pans because that oil between the pan and the dough almost creates this like fried texture to the dough, and it makes it super crispy and flaky on the bottom. And that's why I like to use a little bit of oil. Now, the pro move would be not oil. It would be using solid kind of fat, right? Shortening. I love to use Crisco in my pans. I've used lard in my pans. A solid fat will kind of go into the pan and stay where it's at. So that when you go and you stretch the dough, you can stretch the dough into the rectangle of your size on the countertop, lift it up, place it in, and then just make some small little stretching adjustments, and it won't snap back on you. It'll save you at least an hour in proof time if you use solid fat inside of your pans. Now, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna get a little bit of Crisco in here. I got some Crisco, and I'm gonna show you that process of doing this because it makes everybody's life so much simpler. Now I'm putting a glove on because if you've ever worked with this stuff before and it gets on, it's kind of like weird to get off when you go to wash your hands. So it's easier if you just put a glove and then toss the thing out. I'm gonna take a small knob of Crisco here in my hands, not too much. I'm gonna use the 10x14 size because in the dough video that we did, these dough balls are about 525 grams, which is perfect for the 10x14 pan. So to here, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start kind of in the corners and then work my way up the sides and into the middle. A little goes a long way. You don't have to completely saturate this pan. You gotta remember that once this starts baking, all of this solid fat will melt. And if there's too much in the bottom of the pan, the dough is actually going to be swimming in it, and that's not what we want. It'll actually keep the dough from getting really crispy. But the idea is that when this is in the pan, it's not moving, and as you can see right here, this is exactly what we're looking to accomplish. The next step is the dough itself, right? If you get a lid actually works pretty cool because like for me to be able to stretch the dough on top of this table, it's gonna cause other issues down the line. But I like to use the lid as kind of a guide since this is the same size as this, the inside of this, right? So if we stretch the dough to about the size of this, it's pretty easy to put there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little bit of oil here, and then with my hand, I'm gonna kind of just give this a little smear all the way around. Love this. And now, if you stick with me, you'll see where this is pretty amazing. I greased the inside of the container when I made the dough. I put a little bit of oil inside the container so that it's able to release. And now, just like this, you can see how nice and gassy my dough is. Very gently, and just kind of shimmy it around and make my adjustment. I'm looking to keep the dough in the center of this pan. Now, since I have some oil on my hands, now I'm physically just dimpling this dough to match this outside ring here. And don't worry if it doesn't go all the way. This is gonna save us some steps inside the pan. And the process of doing this is really nice because once I get it on top of that solid fat, you're gonna see that this top right now was the part that was touching the inside of the container, the bottom. But the oil is now gonna be on the opposite side. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift up this dough and I'm gonna lay it inside of the pan upside down. So the part with the oil is actually sitting as the top of the dough, and all I have to do is kind of just shimmy this around, and without a lot of work at all, I can get this to stick exactly where it wants to go. And if you've ever made a pan pizza, this will be your new favorite method, I promise, because all of a sudden you can see that if you've made a focaccia or a Sicilian or a grandma before inside a pan, when you put it in the pan, all the dough wants to do is slide on all that oil. And now what we've just done is we've eliminated that entire step. My dough is sitting all the way to the edges of the pan really beautifully. It doesn't snap back. It's kind of adhered to that shortening, that Crisco that's on the bottom over here. I've got people that have told me they've even used a butter flavored one. To me, it's not natural. If I want butter in here, I'm gonna use butter. But if you like that kind of stuff and you wanna give this crust a little butter flavor, go ahead and do it. It's just something that I don't do. I'd rather use the real stuff. Actually, if you're gonna use real butter, I prefer actually margarine. I know there's gonna be some trolls that are gonna give me a hard time about that too, but I think that there's a lot of better ways to skin that cat. If you wanna use the butter flavored this, go ahead and use it. But the idea is that we just got this dough into the pan without taking about 20 minutes back and forth, keep checking it, keep dimpling it. It's in there right now. I'm gonna put the lid back on. This now is gonna go for a little nap. It's gonna take about an hour. I would say proof for about an hour, check it out. What we're looking here, the goal is to get up to about half the side of this pan, right? Once you see that it's there, we're ready to start baking. Okay, an hour has gone by, and now the dough inside here should be proof to the point where we're ready to go to the next step. Let's take a look at how we did. Looks beautiful. The dough has definitely proofed halfway up the sides of the pan. Now you have a decision to make. The pizza purists, the guys who were doing this originally in Detroit, would have baked this pizza from raw dough all the way through to completion with all the toppings on top. However, to me, after all the years of making this style, I really love this pizza as a par bake. What does that mean? That means that right now, the dough, the way it's sitting in here, I'm gonna stick it in the oven for a little bit. We're gonna allow it to bake until it starts to get some color and that the crust has kind of set in place. And then from that point, you have a lot of different options. I've got my oven set at about 500 degrees right now. It's gonna be close to what you're gonna be setting your oven at home at. The dough is gonna go, the pizza is gonna go inside of the oven. It's probably gonna take somewhere about 8 minutes to get it to that point where it's crispy enough to pop out, as well as nice and brown enough so that we've taken most of the moisture out of this dough. I'm gonna go to the oven with this, and then we're gonna come back and I'm gonna tell you all the next steps of how to proceed with it. This is gonna take about 7 to 8 minutes at about 500 degrees. You'll be able to easily do this in your home oven because every home oven goes to 500. I would set your oven rack up. If you've got some pizza stones, it's even better. I would set it up with the pizza stone on the bottom rack towards the bottom of the oven, which is usually the hottest part of your oven, and then load the pan in there and let it just bake. The par bake step is critical, but once this comes out, there's a lot of different ways that you can utilize this. This becomes really amazing sandwich bread. You can use this to top pizzas later. Because it's got a good amount of oil in it, if you could wrap it up when it's cold, you can freeze it really well and then pull it out of the freezer just before you need it, and you could have pizzas literally any night of the week. So it's very versatile, but this one step I really like, and there's a lot of things that you can do with this dough. Let's see where this comes about. Give me about 7-8 minutes, and then we're gonna go from there. My par baked crust looks just about done, and I'm gonna pull it out. I'm using a tool called a pan gripper. And this is always really nice because it kind of helps you from burning your hands, and it kind of supports this as you go. On top of my table, I've got a cooling rack out here. This is also going to give me a hand. Let's take a look at how this came out. The crust looks very traditional. Like I was saying in the dough recipe, when we made the dough, I put a little bit of malt inside this dough, which helps us get that nice, beautiful golden color around the edges. And that's very visible right here that we can see this. When it's time to bake the pizza, I've got another trick of what we're gonna do to make that beautiful frico. I call it the super frico. It looks so beautiful and caramelized on the outside. So I wanna make sure that the dough is really well baked, because we're gonna do something else to the sides of this at that point. On the top of this, visually, I can see that it's just started to turn brown, but a good amount is still white. This is the perfect spot that I want this in. And then from the bottom here, the bottom we can see has a lot of beautiful color underneath. So everything on this is exactly where I want it to be. If now you decided that you wanted to take this pizza, let it cool down, wrap it up, and put it in the freezer, that would be amazing as well. These slack out. What is slack out? Like when it comes out of the freezer, they kind of get back to room temperature within about 4 or 5 minutes. So by the time you get all your ingredients and everything ready, it'll be the perfect time to put this dough back into the pan, and then you can start making your pizzas, and there's no waiting. You can just go ahead and start making pizzas with however many that you have. Same thing goes if you decide to have a bunch of friends over and you want to have a little pizza party, you can have all the bases ready, have all the pans ready, and then just keep building pizzas and stick them in the oven, and you don't have to worry about dealing with raw dough. I love all these points, and this is why I think the Detroit pizza is so much more special than the rest of them, because it's very user-friendly. Now that my par baked crust is done, I've got everything that I need to start assembling pizzas. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you learned something about par baking. When you're ready to bake with me, take this crust, watch the next video, and I'm going to show you how to top them. Ciao.